Since update 6.2, a lot of people have been using the assault semi-automatic rifles as their primary weapon choice. Frankly, there are good reasons for that too. They are by far the most flexible class of weaponry in the game and dominate most other classes of weaponry from anywhere around 20 to 30 meters all the way out to 100. A sizable chunk, of course, of where most players will find themselves engaging enemies unless playing close quarter focus with a shotgun or high fire rate SMG. But Battlefield 5 offers a true variety of different semi-autos and they perform very differently from each other. So, in today's weapon guide, I'm going to be going over the different semi-autos, covering where they perform best and how they compare to each other, as well as which ones you should be using for what situations and for what playstyles. For those looking for information on specific weapons only, you'll find timestamps to the individual weapons discussed down below in the description, of course. When it comes to your most aggressive options amongst these semi-autos, leading the charge is without a question the Gewehr 1.5, featuring a 359 round per minute fire rate, a 31 round mag which is also magazine reloaded, and a 3 to 6 bullet to kill, netting you a 3-shot kill up to 30 meters, a 4-shot kill between 30 and 40 meters, a 5-shot kill between 50 and 100 meters, and a 6-shot kill from 100 meters onwards. In terms of its raw damage output, it loses of course against most automatics sub 10 meters, but from that point onwards really excels, especially between the 10 and 30 meter mark, beating out almost all of the fully automatics in the game, with the few exceptions being the M1907 SF and Breda PG with certain specific specializations. While after 30 meters you no longer have a direct damage advantage over your enemies, thanks to the lacking horizontal recoil on semi-autos and of course the presence of that very much on the automatics, making your shots more inaccurate and in effect increasing your time to kill, you probably still have an advantage with the Gewehr 1.5 after 30 meters, or at least damage parity with the likes of the STG-44 or Sturmgewehr 1.5, some of the more popular fully automatics for those engagement distances. What really makes the Gewehr 1.5 close quarter focused, if you so will, is the dual hipfire specializations available, the large and quickly to reload magazine, and the very good close to medium range performance in terms of just raw damage output. What should be noted, however, is that while your hipfire on this semi-automatic is probably the best in the entire weapon class, it still isn't competitive with some of the SMGs out there, especially if you're used to some of the more hipfire focused SMGs which have equipped some hipfire specializations, for example the EMP, where you can hipfire down enemies comfortably at 25 meters. So hipfire is good, but not necessarily SMG competitive and should only really be relied on, say sub 10, maybe sub 15 meters for your average engagement. But moving out slightly from the close quarters to the more medium range, you have the M1A1 Carbine, featuring a 449 round per minute, 16 mag magazine reloaded, 4 to 6 bullets to kill, with your 4-shot kill extending up to 50 meters, a 5-shot kill between 50 and 100, and a 6-shot kill from 100 meters onwards. Your raw damage output on this weapon is a little bit more difficult, as it of course loses out against the Gewehr 1.5 sub 30 meters and is at a disadvantage against the MAS 44, M1 Garand or Turner pretty much at almost any engagement distance. Nevertheless, thanks to its large magazine and quick reload, specializations for this weapon offer a mag extension to 31 shots, it definitely still has a role to play as an aggressive focused, low recoil headshot beast that really is quite good at those, let's say, more close medium range engagement distances. Really, it's somewhere in between the more medium range focused Turner and the more really close quarter focused Gewehr 1.5, and by all means, while not necessarily the best semi-auto out there, is most definitely still a competitive choice. So, while the Gewehr 1.5 and M1 Carbine specialize somewhat in more aggressive, close quarter medium range combat, the likes of the Turner SMLE, MAS 44 and M1 Garand firmly dominate the medium range category. They actually keep up with the likes of the M1A1 and Gewehr in terms of raw damage output at pretty much any range, but frankly don't have the necessary mag sizes, or in the case of the Gewehr 1.5 hipfire specializations, to truly shine in a hectic close quarter focused environment. With of course exceptions, most of these weapons really excel at taking out 1, maybe 2 targets before reloading and moving on to the next. The Turner SMLE features a 359 round per minute fire rate, a 10 round mag which is reloaded with individual bullets and stripper clips, and a 3 to 5 bullet to kill. In terms of your ranges, you're getting a 3-shot kill up to 50 meters, a 4-shot kill between 50 and 100 meters, and a 5-shot kill from 100 meters onwards, and that damage model is frankly shared by the MAS 44 and M1 Garand in the exact same way. In terms of your raw damage output, you're frankly quite competitive, anywhere from, let's say, 10 to 20 meters out to 100. But strictly speaking, in terms of having a damage advantage, really you want to stick to sub 50 meter combat, because after that 50 meter mark and the step up to a 4 bullet to kill, the likes of the Gewehr 43 or Karabin 1938M are the better choice. But when it comes to distinguishing the Turner, MAS 44 and M1 Garand, you really have to dig down a little bit deeper into the specializations and individual stats than just their raw damage output and fire rates, because of course they are all relatively similar. So what makes the Turner SMLE unique is the availability of the mag extension specialization alongside also the detachable magazine, though you have to of course choose between those, so you can either have a smaller magazine which you can reload quickly, or, unique to this weapon, a mag extension, bringing up your total bullet capacity to 20, though of course at the cost of fast reloads. What this means is the Turner SMLE lends itself, at least with those specializations, a little bit more to flanking or more aggressive maneuvers, as it is less vulnerable to engaging multiple enemies at once or in quick succession, as you frankly have the necessary bullets to take out those players. Different with the MAS and M1 Garand, of course, because those don't have those mag extension specializations, unless the MAS, which comes with the same default 10 mag, which is reloaded with individual bullets or stripper clips, but can of course equip the detachable magazine to get quicker reloads, really can take on 1, maximum 2 targets before needing a quick reload. In addition, it also has the availability of the high velocity bullet specialization, which the Turner doesn't, further lending itself to slightly more ranged performance and making shooting moving targets at 50 meters or even longer ranges that little bit more easier. And then of course, there is the M1 Garand, which sees a further reduction in its magazine capacity with only 8 shots available, but it is reloaded by M-block clips, essentially in the same kind of fashion as a magazine would, meaning you reload relatively quickly and you always reload all of your bullets at once. That, alongside the fact that it has significantly less recoil than the likes of the MAS or the Turner SMLE, means that it's the ultimate 1v1 king. Essentially, it's the easiest to use to take out a target as quickly as possible. You can comfortably spam fire it, and it generally nicely gravitates up towards a headshot if you start by shooting the enemy in the body, all around leaving you in a position where this weapon isn't just easy to use, but it's also extremely lethal. What you do have to pay attention to, of course, is that you don't come across too many enemies at once, and on the note of specializations, the M1 Garand has quite a number of unique ones to offer as well. Alongside heavy load, which turns it more into a Gewehr 43 competitor, which we'll cover a little bit later on in the video, you also have the option for a bayonet if you're looking for some funny kills, or the grenade launcher, which gives it additional anti-vehicle or anti-infantry capabilities, which, well, just add to the explosive fun the assault class can already carry. But onto the weapons that are most dedicated to medium-long range. Frankly, many of these still outperform automatics outside of close quarter, but where they truly shine, especially in comparison to the likes of the M1 Garand and Turner as just discussed, is beyond that 50 meter mark, roughly between 50 and 100 meters. That's really where nothing can touch them, and even the likes of the ZH-29, which is currently all the rage, can't outdamage these weapons before that 100 meter mark, where they lose their potency, and something like the ZH-29 maintains its lethality. So starting off in the medium long range category, we have the AGM-42, featuring a 449 round per minute fire rate, a 10 round mag, once more reloaded with individual bullets or clips, and a 425 bullet to kill, with a 4-shot kill all the way out to 100 meters and a 5-shot kill from 100 meters onwards. In terms of specializations, once more you have the detachable magazine for faster reloads, which is definitely something I would recommend for this weapon. But in terms of its raw damage output, this one's quite interesting, because despite its lower damage model, especially when compared to its competitors such as the Gewehr 43, the high fire rate actually means that you have essentially the exact same damage output at all ranges. But it also means that missing 1 or 2 shots is less impactful on your overall damage, though the small magazine paired with, relatively speaking, higher number of bullets to kill required means that, once again, much like with the M1 Garand, you're looking really at a 1v1 focused weapon, in this case just for those slightly longer ranges as you would with the M1 Garand. In terms of taking this weapon slightly more on the aggressive side into more medium close quarters, you can still do that though, and I'd say of all of the more medium long range focused semi-autos, this is the best one to do it because of its higher fire rate and the just previously explained advantages that brings. The automatics really only have a flat out damage advantage over you below 30 meters, and in the case of the slightly more medium range focused automatics such as the STG, you more or less have damage parity between even 10 and 30 meters. So your damage output is still relatively competitive. It's just if you want a flat out advantage, you're going to want to stick to 50 meters and beyond, where your low recoil and fast fire rate mean you can just chain headshots into somebody at an astonishing pace. But moving on to the, I'd say, category-defining weapon, the Gewehr 43. That, of course, features a 299 round per minute fire rate, a 10 mag capacity, where once more individual bullets and stripper clips are used to reload, and a 3 to 4 bullet to kill, with a 3-shot kill offered below 100 meters and a 4-shot kill above 100 meters. As with a lot of these weapons, you have the availability of a detachable mag, which is a recommendation on my part. Of course, the damage output of the Gewehr 43 is identical to that of the AGM-42. What this weapon, however, has in terms of distinguishing factors is it has a little bit more killing capacity on a per magazine basis, a slower fire rate, but also quite a little bit more in terms of vertical recoil, which you're going to have to control and which make it slightly more difficult, ironically, for more longer range target engagements. That's where the likes of the Karabin 1938M or M1 Garand, if equipped with heavy load, offer significantly better performance, as they offer a vertical recoil reduction of about 20% versus the Gewehr 43. The Gewehr 43, on the other hand, has slightly larger mags, as the Karabin 38M only comes with a 10 round mag and no option for a detachable mag specialization, and the M1 Garand, of course, only offers those 8 shots in your M block clip. So it's a little bit of a trade-off between magazine capacity and thus the possibility of maybe more regularly successfully taking on 2 targets before having to reload, versus the Karabin and M1 Garand, where you spend more time reloading and more frequently have to reload, but have less recoil to contend with when trying to take on targets at more longer ranges. But last in this category of weaponry, of course, we have the Selbstlader 1916, featuring a 224 round per minute fire rate, a 26 round mag, which is magazine reloaded, and a 3 to 4 bullet to kill, the same damage model found on the Gewehr 43, heavy load equipped M1 Garand, and of course Karabin 1938M. In terms of your most interesting specializations here, undoubtedly it's going to be the trigger job, which brings the fire rate up to 257 rounds per minute, and in my opinion is an absolute must. But even with that equipped, in terms of your raw damage output, you're most definitely at a disadvantage with the Selbstlader 1916 compared to all of the other weapons in the semi-automatics long-range focus category, and frankly, depending on if you actually equip that specialization, you will even be out-damaged between 50 and 100 meters by the likes of the Turner, M1 Garand or Mas 44, despite that being, of course, outside their sub 50 meter ideal engagement distance. Really, with the Selbstlader 1916, you're trading competitive damage output for an extraordinarily large magazine. If that's your playstyle, absolutely go for it, but it is by no means a strictly speaking competitive choice. So the semi-autos covered a wide variety of engagement distances, all the way from 10 meters really to 100, covering arguably the large majority of all engagement distances that are of relevance in most Battlefield 5 multiplayer matches. Key to using them, of course, successfully is obviously picking the right one for the right situation and being a generally relatively accurate player when landing your shots, because the low fire rates simply mean that missing 1 or 2 shots has a far larger impact on your actual time to kill than with a faster firing fully automatic. But if you haven't recently tried one of them out or have yet to play with any of the weapons we discussed today, I highly recommend you do so. Weapons like the AGM-42, for example, are criminally underrated and extraordinarily powerful in the right hands. But that pretty much wraps it up for these semi-autos. Feel free to share your own favorites down below. If you enjoyed the video, a rating would be much appreciated. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 5 video.